Hey guys, Joe here, doing a video on a 2018 Chevrolet Equinox LT. This is a fairly common option package, I would call it, for the vehicle. Now, as you recall, last year in 2016, I did look at an Equinox. I looked at an all-wheel drive LS, and you can see that video up here. And I said that could have been the bargain of the decade. It still could be if you're willing to take the old body style, but as we do the walk around and the interior and the drive on this vehicle, I think if you are looking at Equinox and you have to choose between the two, I would recommend that you lean more towards the 2018. I'm not going to tell you it's the one to buy, but I would recommend it more than the 17, unless you need the V6. I like the V6. I think it has more torque and more pulling power, and it's less burdened in the 2017. The 2018, being a lighter vehicle and with the turbo, it's pretty solid. So, okay, back to guerrilla style filming. Here we have the 2018 Chevrolet Equinox. Now, I literally just drove this thing's older brother, the 2017, to come pick this one up. This is the exact same color, nightfall gray. However, it does have a little bit darker color to it, as well as a little bit of green in this paint. Don't know if that's just the mix for 2018 or what. This is an LT front-wheel drive. Styling is so much better than the last year, and it's a much better car overall. Starting at the front, you have projector beams. It might even be HIDs. We'll double check as we go through. Some LED running lamps. Alloy wheels on the LT, nice to have. Four-wheel disc brakes, which were not present on the previous generation. It actually had drums in the back until you got over an LS. Very minimalist styling on it. It looks just like a Malibu from the front curve of the door line, but other than that, it starts to break up and get different. They kind of kept the old design the way that it has the blackout here, and this is, in my opinion, the much better looking of the Chevy GMC twins because it's a more fluid design. The GMC looks a lot too much like a Nissan Rogue or Nissan whatever the next one up is. Murano, I guess it would be. Don't really care for that. A very common design element everybody's doing is this line that comes down. It kind of breaks up the flat surface. However, sometimes it doesn't look right. For example, if you take a look at this picture, and I'm not saying it's a bad vehicle, but the Honda Civic tends to have a little bit of a weird ass line to it on that rear bumper. Very minimalist design. I like it. It's not ostentatious, doesn't look goofy. The top of the line trucks look just as nice, if not even better. But yeah, it has just enough of a touch of chrome on it to make it look a little bit more elegant without looking stupid. And of course, this one is push button start even on the LT, so you have the touch sensors on the door handles. So yeah, let's go inside and we'll take a look at what this thing has for equipment. Anybody that has seen the current Chevy lineup or has spent any time researching it is going to be pretty familiar with the design language that's in here, which is exactly what Chevrolet intended. So don't get that twisted, my friends. Starting here at the dashboard, very simple layout, tack on one side, speedo on the other. As you also see, it also shows you when the auto stop start is functioning. Some people who are not familiar with the technology will be wondering why their car keeps shutting off. That's a direct indicator. The middle screen here is controlled by this set of buttons here. And of course, you have all your different things. They're very common. They're the same thing on pretty much every manufacturer now, with one or two small differences. I like to leave mine on the big digital speedo because then when the cop pulls me over, I don't have an excuse. Steering wheel. This is a different design on the airbag. Looks like home plate, but that's cool. It's pretty small. You can see based on the size of my hand, and I can't even palm a basketball, so it's not that big. I mean, the steering wheel. Again, with the touch-sensitive membranes, not a huge fan of these. They wear out pretty quickly. Believe it or not, I've seen some of these with 40, 50,000 miles where people that have a lot of oils on their fingers will actually eat through there, necessitating a complete replacement of the panels. Cruise control is on the left side, as it always is. Now I'm assuming that on upper levels they probably have the heated steering wheel as well as adaptive cruise buttons on that side. This side has your four-way switch for the center stack, as well as a button for voice control and phone pickup and end. Very common. Every vehicle should have it. You should be able to jump from one vehicle to another without being completely confused. Remember the old Mercedes cruise control, which was a third stick for some reason, even on the 300Cs. Anyway, moving on. Radio, it looks like the unit that's actually in the Chevy Trax and the Cruze, as opposed to the one that's in the Malibu, but that's fine. It is touch sensitive, of course. Bink, 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 bink. Yeah, this is more like the unit that's in the Cruze. Obviously, this is the base unit. If you get the bigger one, you get the bigger screen, and it has more functions. I don't mind this one because it's very usable. However, this design is kind of a thing that's kind of gotten old already to me, where you have like a semi-separated radio control interface. Don't know why everybody does that. Audi, Mercedes, they have the ones that actually sit up on top. If I want to look like I have a Garmin in my car, I'm going to get a Garmin and put it in my car. Dual climate controls, even on the LT, and of course, it's got pictograms for everything, which is a good thing, unless you're somebody that's used to having a plus minus for your fans, because you're just looking at there going, oh, what do those do? And you just start pushing buttons. Again, I'm not insulting anybody. I just think that for people that haven't been in a newer vehicle, it might be a little confusing for the first day or so. Down here, you have a USB and line in jack combined, as well as a power port. Hello, power port! Manumatic shifter, however, this one doesn't have a true manual mode. As you can see, it just has drive and low, but you can shift it manually. I've never been a real fan of these on this style because the computer will upshift whenever the hell it wants. Electronic parking brake, which everything seems to be going to. This is just a regular passenger vehicle, so I don't mind it. On this side, you have a rotary style headlight control as well as a dimmer control, which is nice. It's plain, simple, easy to use, as well as an easily readable and readily available release for the hood. The Ford Mustangs, the newer ones, as well as the Corvette, have them tucked way back underneath there. Although, let's face it, how often are you going to be under there? Family style controls for the window switches, which is nice. And then this is kind of cool. So this is the switch for the rear tailgate. Currently it's off, but you can go to 3/4 or max for where you want it to go when you push the button to release the rear hatch. It's a little bit different than the Ford system in that the Ford system has a little button that you just press and hold. That's fine though. Again, to each their own. Seat comfort. A little bit better than last year's seat, more side support, which I really do appreciate. As for the comfort level in this vehicle, it has, believe it or not, I think more front leg room. I'm not sure about the rear, though it does look like it does have more leg room, even though it is technically a smaller vehicle. I do appreciate that they aren't trying to compete directly with the Ford Edge, because the Ford Edge went and got itself biggered versus this thing, which got itself smallered. It's not as big as an Edge, and it's not trying to be, so good for you, Chevy. This one really doesn't have many options. It only has the Confidence and Convenience package, which gives you the power liftgate, remote start, heated seats, air conditioning, dual climate control, the leather wrapped steering wheel, and rear park assist and rear cross traffic alert. So for about 30 grand, it's not a bad vehicle and comparable to what you would have gotten in a 2017. Now, for 30 grand, you probably could have touched an LTZ in the V6 if you're willing to take the old body style, which will give you some more toys, but you're getting the older body. The newer body is kind of what they're doing this for, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, you can only get 4 cylinders in the Equinoxes starting in 2018. That's okay for now, but it also makes me wonder if they're going to do kind of like Ford did with the Fusion and eventually bring back the V6 in like a sport SS version, which would be pretty damn awesome, actually. There will be a diesel option coming out late this year, early next year. Don't know if I would recommend it, though, based on the fact that, number one, it's about 5 years too late for the gas price crunch thing. And number two, because, no offense to Chevy, they're not that fast. And I know that's not the point, but they're also not that fuel efficient when you're always trying to get on it because you think you need to accelerate faster. Drive them all before you make your decision. We have no problem as salespeople putting you in a couple of different vehicles, especially if you're that serious. If it's just down to one decision on engine, we will let you drive the base, the middle, the top, the diesel. We'll let you drive another vehicle completely if you're not happy with the Equinox or the Traverse or the Highlander or whatever you're looking at. Don't just jump into a purchase just because it's the newest body. That being said, I really do like it. It's a little bit quieter. The NVH is definitely better in here, and that's nickels, vibranium, and hammers. No, I'm just kidding. That's noise, vibration, and harshness. So the engine feels a little bit more damp than the 4-cylinder in last year's car. Of course, the last year's car was a 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder. This one has a 1.5. But it makes more power, and that's the important thing, kids. Yeah, I'm not going to jump back there because it's not really necessary, but it definitely has more rear legroom. I can tell you just by looking at it. And rear cargo room. So that's cool. All right, what I'm noticing is this is definitely a faster vehicle. It's definitely smoother. However, there is slightly more wind noise than there was in the previous Equinox. Could be the angle of the windshield, could be the mirror design, could be a couple of different things. Not a big thing, but it's definitely something I noticed. However, all the other road noise in the vehicle is much more damped. It feels tighter, it's quieter, and I really do like it. The pickup, you gotta wait for that little turbo to spool up, but once it does, she ain't bad. Steering is tighter than it was in the last one, although it was pretty damn good in the last one too. My sight lines are decent. The mirror design is kind of inhibiting some of my ability to see because it comes in at an angle, and I'll put a shot of that here in just a second. But other than that, I really don't have any real gripes. It has the controls on the back of the steering wheel, which I like. Makes it easier to control things like your favorite stations, your volume, things like that. The seats, again, are way better than they were in the last vehicle. Much better hip and back support, even without the lumbar inflated. I've taken a few big road joints, and just like that one, and you can hear it wasn't too bad. It's shaking because of the way I'm holding the phone because I forgot my windshield mount again because I'm a dumbass. But overall, it takes the bumps with what I would call aplomb. You can look up that word, otherwise I'll put the definition right there. It's also hard to drive and keep a hand on the steering wheel and hold this. Might die. But I do it for you guys because I love you. It's definitely worth considering, especially if you're going to look at, say, a CR-V or a RAV4, because in my opinion, this is more that size. The Ford Edge is bigger, rides bigger, looks bigger, is bigger than the Equinox. So, if you're going to compare this to anything, those are the two that I would directly compete it to in the mid-size SUV, CUV, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. If a diesel comes in and they allow me to take it for a drive, I will definitely give you my opinion. However, based on the Colorado drive I did, I fear it's going to be a little bit slow for most people. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, there you go for the drive portion. Well, that's about it. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any comments, leave them down below. If you'd like to see anything in specific, leave that down below. Everything goes down below, kids. And if you'd like to subscribe, go ahead and click on my facey. If you'd like to contribute, you can clicky on the Patreon-y, and then there'll be a couple more videos here. I didn't feel like refilming that, so I doubled everything. Anyways, as always, talk to you later. However, there is slightly more wind noise at speed than there was in the previous vehicle. However, all the other road noise, it's definitely worth considering, especially if you're